guys, and welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a cook with me video, and I'm basically just making a bunch of random things from stuff that I found in my fridge. I'm going to be making a chicken dish, and also I'm going to show you how I make salmon, and I kind of make a bunch of stuff for meal prepping during the week. I'm going to also show you a couple of the ingredients that I use specifically with the chicken. Again, everything is gluten-free, so these are Italian gluten-free breadcrumbs that I got from Stop & Shop, and that's the name of the brand. It's in the gluten-free section at Stop & Shop. Again, this is just stuff that I found in my fridge. So I found a half-empty or half-used jar of tomato basil sauce, so I'm going to use that with the chicken. And then this hot sauce is so good, guys. I found this at Aldi's, and it's called Valentina. It's a Mexican hot sauce. It's not really too spicy, but the flavor is really good. Then I'm just gonna use some garlic powder and black pepper to season the chicken, and then I'm gonna use mozzarella cheese and the eggs on the side. I actually got that from a HelloFresh package. I didn't use all the eggs, so that was just leftover. And then the chicken breast tenderloins, I got that from Aldi's. I'm also going to make some roasted potatoes to go with each meal. And this is the salmon that I also cooked. I also cooked some pork tenderloins, but I didn't show that in the video. Okay, so before you start cutting up the potatoes, you should actually preheat your oven to about 400 degrees. And it kind of cooks the potatoes fast. We're going to cook them for about 20-25 minutes, depending on how crispy you like them. And you're basically just going to cut up the potatoes into little medium pieces, as I'm doing right here. And you're going to place it on a baking sheet with olive oil. Okay, so now you're going to coat the potatoes with some olive oil, just enough to coat all of the potatoes, and then you're going to add some salt and pepper to taste. And then also what I like to add is rosemary or thyme. With this particular recipe I use rosemary, but either one is fine if you use thyme as well. Just gives it a really good flavor. So after you rub all the spices and olive oil into the potatoes, we're going to bake it at 400 degrees for about 25 minutes. You could cook it longer depending on how crispy you want them, and also depending on your oven. So now I'm also going to make salmon, which we're going to eat for the week. I'm actually not a huge fan of salmon. I have to be in the mood for it. And I'm definitely one of those types of people that can't eat the same things over and over again. So I have to make sure that what I eat, I like it. So that's why I kind of use this particular seasoning with the salmon, because it tastes really good and I don't mind eating that a few days out of the week. So I use that sriracha seasoning. I got that actually from Lowe's, and then like in the barbecue section. And then I also use garlic salt and black pepper. You don't need to use regular salt because the garlic salt is obviously, it contains salt, so it makes it salty. The sriracha seasoning is not salty. It just gives it a little bit of flavoring. So that's why you kind of see me coating the salmon with it, but it's definitely not making it salty. That's why I'm using the garlic salt to add that extra flavor, and plus I just love garlic. Just make sure to rub in all the spices and the olive oil all over the salmon so that each part is properly seasoned, so you don't get like patches of unseasoned salmon. I'm going to cook the salmon at about 350 degrees, and then also I'm going to cover the salmon because covering it keeps in the moisture so that you don't have your salmon come out dry, because that's no good, obviously. So I had sweet potato, so I decided to randomly just make sweet potato fries to go with probably the pork that I made. And yeah, so I just decided to cook it on the stove with the cast iron skillet. I don't know, I find that it takes a lot of effort to maintain a cast iron skillet. I don't know if anyone else out there feels that way, but if you have any types of tricks to help keep your cast iron skillet like new or, you know, properly seasoned so things don't stick to it, comment down below if you had any types of tricks or ideas to help with that. So last but not least, I'm making kind of, I guess, what you would call a skinny chicken parm. So these are the ingredients that I use to make that. I just kind of like, half the time, guys, like when I'm in the kitchen, I just look inside the fridge and I'm like, okay, what do I have left over and what can I make up together with the ingredients? So I'm using the Italian breadcrumbs. I think I just ended up using the whole thing. It was like a cup was left over, so I used that. And then I actually usually sometimes I'll use Parmesan cheese to add to the breadcrumbs, but for some reason I just didn't do that in this video, probably because I didn't have it in my fridge. But I added additional seasoning just to give it an extra like salty flavoring to the breadcrumbs. So I added garlic powder, black pepper, and I think I added a little bit of salt as well. Okay, so I think I preheated the oven to about 375 degrees, and then I'm just coating a pan. You can use any type of baking sheet, put some olive oil or some vegetable oil spray on there, and then I'm dipping the chicken into the eggs, then you dip it into the breadcrumbs and place it on the baking sheet. Now I use my hands because I just find it easier to do that, but if you know you have some type of qualms about touching meat, you obviously can use some types of utensils like tongs to hold the chicken, but I just find it easier just to use your hands. But of course, since it's chicken, you have to make sure you're careful and you have to make sure that you're washing your hands before touching things and just keeping clean and hygienic. So once you're finished breading all of the chicken, you place it in the oven. I cooked it for about 45 minutes and the temperature was at 350 degrees. So you cook it first for about 45 minutes, and then once it's cooked, you remove it and then put your toppings on. I had a half-used jar of tomato basil marinara sauce, so I used that on top of the chicken, and then I also added some of that Valentina hot sauce. Again, it's not really spicy per se, it just gives it that extra zing and a little bit more flavor. But if you wanted to add additional hot sauce or make it spicy, you just add a lot more to it. So I add that on top, and then of course the final piece to this meal is cheese. I mean, I tell you, any dish is just made amazing once you add cheese to it. And once the cheese is added on top, You put it back in the oven for probably about like another 10 minutes, just until the cheese is melted. Guys, I tell you, this meal was so delicious. I loved eating it and definitely will not mind having it over and over again. So that's it, and thanks for watching my cook with me video, and see you guys soon.